Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Rubenstein. Today is September 5th, 2024. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We are live on social media platforms, Instagram, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and afterwards available wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Please start submitting questions in the chat. And as always, tell your friends, like, subscribe, follow to help us reach a wider audience. Today is day 335 of the October 7th war. I just read the understatement of the year. It's in a report in Axios by Israeli journalist Barak Ravid. A Biden administration official said that Hamas's execution of 6 Israeli hostages called into question Hamas's willingness to do a deal of any kind. Called into question. That is an understatement. Hamas is a barbaric terrorist army with no regard for human life. Hamas has rejected every deal. Now President Biden is asking, is there any hostage release deal that Hamas would agree to? It's the right question. I can tell you this. When there is pressure on Israel, Hamas increases its demands. Last week, Hamas increased the number of Palestinian terrorists that it demanded would be released. Pressuring Israel is the wrong approach. We need massive pressure on Hamas and massive pressure on Hamas's backers, Qatar, Turkey, Iran. We need massive pressure now. Please share this message before it's too late. I have to read this sentence in the Axios report out loud. A concern raised in the Situation Room meeting was that the US could press Israel to reduce Israel Defense Forces deployed along the Egypt-Gaza border or on other issues, only to discover that Hamas doesn't agree to other parts of the deal. Again, yes, the problem is not the details of a potential deal. It's the big picture. Hamas wants to live to fight another day. Hamas wants a deal that lets them keep hostages for more time, keep control of Gaza forever, and have the opportunity to rearm so they can invade Israel again, fire rocket barrages again, take more hostages again. Israel's goals are, of course, the opposite. Israel wants to destroy Hamas's military and government capabilities in Gaza. Israel wants to ensure the safe return of every hostage immediately. And Israel wants to ensure that what happened on October 7th can never happen again. We often get a lot of questions here at the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office about how to stay informed, what to read, where to look, and so on. One of our main goals at the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office is to bridge the gap between official Israeli government information and friends of Israel around the world who need to get this information and be able to interpret it and talk about it. Yesterday evening, the Prime Minister of Israel gave an important presentation to international journalists. Here are 3 points he emphasized. 1, Israel is very small. Israel's major cities are not far from Gaza. Jerusalem is 40 miles away from Gaza. Tel Aviv and Beersheba are 30 miles away from Gaza. A short drive is all that separates Israel from the Hamas rapist regime. 2, in the 2 decades since Israel withdrew from Gaza, Hamas built an enormous military capability in Gaza. This capability was revealed on October 7th, and it is revealed every day we learn more about Hamas's massive tunnel network. And 3, Israel cannot withdraw again from Gaza's border with Egypt, the Philadelphia corridor, because Hamas will use the opportunity to rearm and prepare more attacks on Israelis. Watch the whole thing and let me know what you think in the comments. You can find it on the Israeli Prime Minister's official channels in English. I will go over it a bit more in detail for those of you who are watching live now. Again, people are always asking me what they should know and what they should say. These are some important points that the Prime Minister made himself. First, again, the size of Israel matters, the distance matters. He noted the distance between major cities in Israel, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Beersheba from Gaza. We don't want anyone in Israel to be under missile attacks from Gaza or the threat of invasion. The Prime Minister also spoke about the history that nobody cares to remember. When Israel made peace with Egypt, this was in 1979, and then in the years following, Israel withdrew from the Sinai Peninsula but it remained in control of Gaza and the Gaza-Egypt border, the Philadelphia corridor. Now, in 2005, Israel withdrew from all of Gaza, including the Philadelphia corridor. People need to know this. Israel withdrew from Gaza and the Philadelphia corridor in 2005. And in the nearly 2 decades since Israel left the Philadelphia corridor, Hamas built a massive military capability in Gaza. We saw it on October 7th. 3,000 Hamas terrorists invaded. And it's revealed every day. We're seeing pictures more and more from the Israel Defense Forces about Hamas's massive tunnel network. We've seen pictures of tunnels on the border with Egypt. We've seen pictures of the tunnel above the children's bedroom where the 6 Israeli hostages were held who were executed. This tunnel network is massive. And the Prime Minister also emphasized last night in his talk that all three of Israel's war goals, the destruction of Hamas's military and government capabilities, the safe return of the hostages, and never allowing October 7th to happen again, all 3 of these goals run through the Philadelphia corridor. The Prime Minister argued that leaving Gaza's border with Egypt, while hostages are still in Gaza, means hostages can be taken out of Gaza to Egypt and then smuggled out to Yemen, Iran, or anywhere else. The Prime Minister argued that leaving the border, the Gaza-Egypt border, before Hamas is defeated means Hamas will resupply and attack Israel again and again. The Prime Minister discussed the view that leaving the Philadelphia corridor again, this is the second time it would be leaving again after 2005. If Israel does this again, Israel will not be able to return for decades, not because it isn't possible militarily. The IDF can do it. It's because Israel would not have any international legitimacy to retake any territory it leaves in Gaza. The Prime Minister also hinted at another challenge that doesn't get enough attention, and that is the stance of Egypt. We've said it already, but we'll say it again. Egypt shares a border with Gaza. Everyone needs to understand this. When you're having conversations with people, pull out the map, show them Egypt shares a border with Gaza. Weapons that entered Gaza were smuggled from Egypt, whether above ground or below it. The Prime Minister said that even though the policy of Egypt was to prevent the weapon smuggling, it didn't necessarily work. That is an understatement. Go watch the whole thing. It's on the Prime Minister's official channels, YouTube, all the others. Let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Our first question today comes from Robin on Instagram, who says, I'm seeing and experiencing a lot of anger and hate within the Jewish/Israeli side. Why are we fighting with each other?
Yes, there is a wide range of opinions among the Israeli public about how to approach all of the issues that I spoke about, including the world war goals and how to achieve them, how to achieve the destruction of Hamas's military and government capabilities, how to ensure the safe return of the hostages. And these war goals are part of the negotiations. This is what Israel is bringing to the table. These are our goals, but Israel is open to a deal that may offer some sort of compromise or workaround on some of these demands. One of these demands is, of course, the Philadelphia corridor. Israel is insisting that it stay on the corridor so that smuggling cannot continue. Okay. Now, there have been many reports in the media leaked from various sources, whether Hamas sources, whether American sources, Egypt, Qatar, and so on, that have pointed out also within the Israeli public and government that the Philadelphia corridor is the sticking point and that Israel shouldn't insist or it should insist. This is a debate, and Hamas is adding to this Israeli debate by publishing videos of the hostages that it executed and attempting to pressure the Israeli public, the Israeli government, the Israeli people to concede more and faster. This is part of Hamas's strategy to pressure Israel to concede as much as possible. We need the pressure focused on where it matters, on Hamas and its backers, Qatar, Turkey, Iran. Even Egypt is in a position to pressure Hamas to tell it to take the deal that Israel has agreed to multiple times in the past.
Our next question comes from Ed Bar on YouTube, who asks, are international NGOs, especially UN-affiliated ones, responding to the execution of the hostages? Are they condemning it, ignoring it?
I haven't seen much. I can tell you one tweet I saw yesterday is from the UN Human Rights Council that said that they were horrified by the reports about the execution of the hostages and went on to use some very unimpressive language. The first thing that jumped out at this tweet to me when I saw it was that they said they were concerned not by the executions themselves, but by the reports that there were executions, meaning maybe it wasn't confirmed. It was confirmed by multiple parties. The Israel Defense Forces, of course, was there to recover the bodies, and we saw when the bodies were examined that the Israeli hostages were shot in the back of the head. And also Hamas revealed that it did murder these hostages. So there's no dispute or debate or conversation about the way that these hostages died. These hostages were seized from Israel on October 7th. And I looked yesterday at what the Human Rights Council tweeted on October 7th. You can go do a Twitter advanced search, see what people tweeted on October 7th. I looked. On October 7th at 1:51 p.m. in the afternoon, the UN Human Rights Council called for de-escalation. This was as thousands of Hamas terrorists were going house to house in Israel, killing people, burning families in their homes, and taking these hostages, which were executed a week ago. And what the UN Human Rights Council was able to say was to call for de-escalation. It's not serious. I'm not looking toward any of the international NGOs for moral authority. They lost this a long time ago.
Our next question comes from Leahy on Instagram, who asks, I've just heard reports of a gunman killed in a shootout near the Israeli Consulate in Munich. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And am I correct in believing this is on the anniversary of the 1972 attack?
Yes, Leahy on Instagram. I saw these reports a few minutes before I went live for my daily briefing. There were reports of a shooting near the Israeli Consulate in Munich, Germany. And this shooting came on the anniversary of the date that Palestinian terrorists attacked Israeli athletes and murdered them at the Munich Olympics in 1972. Okay. Here at the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office, we are emphasizing as often as we can that this war is not just between Israel and Hamas and Gaza. We've called it a 7-front war. Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran itself. So those are the 7 fronts. That's the Iranian ring of fire around Israel. But it's obvious we should be including an 8th front, and that 8th front is Jews around the world and Israeli targets around the world. There are individuals who are motivated by their support of the October 7th massacre. It was an exciting day for them. They rallied the next day in support of Hamas against Israel, against the Jewish people. And we're seeing more and more Jews around the world being targeted just for being Jewish. We are seeing Israeli government places like embassies and consulates are under an increasing guard, because this war that we are fighting on 7 fronts in Israel is not just confined to Israel. It's the whole world that's involved. We need to be vigilant, we need to be ready, and we need to be prepared to deal with this threat and, again, pressure as much as possible those who are responsible for the threat. The head of the octopus, of course, is Iran. But I will wait to see further reports to see who is responsible, why, how they were motivated, but this is the trend that we clearly see.
Our next question comes from Juliet Bravo on Instagram, who asks, is Israel okay to travel to as a tourist at the present time? I've been many times and I'm longing to return, but unsure if I'll even get admitted due to circumstances.
I'll put it this way. First of all, the best way to stand with Israel is to stand in Israel. Anyone who's thinking about coming, wants to come, wants to buy a ticket, I say, do it. I know many of the airlines have canceled flights. El Al is flying. The Israeli National Airline is flying. It's always a good time to come to Israel. The Israeli military authorities are very clear about where people can go, where people can't go, where it's safe, where it's not safe. Life is going on in Israel as much as possible, given the circumstances of this war that we find ourselves in on 7 fronts. The school year is beginning. However, I mentioned there are places in Israel that you can't go. I'm specifically thinking of the northern part of Israel, where since October 8th, Hezbollah in Lebanon has been firing rockets, anti-tank missiles into Israel that has forced the evacuation of more than 60,000 Israelis from their homes. So if you were to attempt to visit the Israeli border area with Lebanon, the Israeli police would say, this area is closed, sorry. But I highly recommend, if you want to really get a feel for what's going on in Israel, be a part of the story that we are writing here about our future, come visit us, come to Jerusalem, come to Tel Aviv, go to the old city, go to the beach. You'll have a great time. I loved the question. Thank you.
And our last question for today, a critical one coming in from Akiva on Instagram, who asks, when will the Israeli citizen spokesdog Simka be live on the daily briefings?
Yes, we have an official confirmed spokesdog here at the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's office. Dog's name is Simka, and you're asking, when will Simka go live for a daily briefing? I'm not sure when the first live daily briefing will be. I think I would like to start first with Simka, not live, perhaps record some videos, piece them together, and present Simka as best as possible. But over a period of time, once we train Simka on how to stand in front of the camera and how to speak clearly and not to make too many pauses, PAWSES, then Simka will be ready for a live briefing. But I was the one booked for today, and I wasn't going to give that up. Thank you all for watching. We are live every weekday in Israel, Sunday to Thursday, 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. on the East Coast. As always, follow us on all our platforms, and follow me personally on my Instagram, Ruby Guides Israel, RUBY Guides Israel. Maybe you're watching live there now, or on X, Twitter. I'm Paul Rubens, PAULRUBENS. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back on Sunday.